All right. So, how'd the homework assignment go?
That was easy. Is that a real question?
Not easy?
It was so easy.
What do you mean you're not good at programming? You're like, but this wasn't. I mean, there's some other folks in here who are like, they're literally in like their second programming class. You've already had those, right?
Yeah, I've had two programming classes.
You've had what?
2 programming classes. So I'm like, did you not take 300? Nope, I'm 1 step ahead of them.
Well, you're an entire semester ahead of them.
Actually, I'm 4 semesters ahead of some of them.
Yeah, because you would have had some programming stuff in your other classes, right?
No, because I'm IT.
You're just wrong.
I'll wait till you hit some of my classes.
Well, I won't have to.
What do you mean?
You're gonna have to take programming language.
No, not programming language. Like 350 operating systems. You might.
Oh, that's good.
Oh. It's gonna be awesome. All right. We don't do a lot of programming in there. We do some.
By the way, Blackboard does not support emojis, and it's really annoying when I'm trying to paste my homework in.
Just upload a text file.
All right. Shut up. Let's look at this. All right. So last time we were kind of talking about collection types, right? And today we're going to talk about some functions. I realize that some of you maybe wrote some functions for your homework. That's fine. But we're trying to look at these different parts that go into the Swift language so we can start applying them to our iOS development stuff. Let's see. Our last class was Wednesday. So we talked about some of the new announcement stuff, right? So,
yeah.
Did we? So the stuff you're going to learn in here will directly apply to being able to write apps now for the Apple TV, Apple Watch, iPhone, iPad, iPad Pro.
Surface Pro?
Not the Surface Pro. Surface Pro is a real laptop. It will be interesting. I don't remember whose post I replied to, but if we fast forward 6 months, it'll be interesting to see if the app developers who write stuff for iPad Pro end up supporting the idea that there's still a need for desktop-based operating system, mobile computing devices, or not. So for instance, I can't do any software development on an iPad. I need a computer to do that. So wouldn't that be cool if they had Xcode for the iPad Pro? But does that make sense? I don't know. In a touch-based operating system, it might be one of those things that sounds cool but is completely unusable. So it'll be interesting. But clearly, they're trying to be a competitor with Microsoft Surface. Okay, so we were talking about collection types, and in this particular assignment, you were messing with dictionaries, right? What's the difference between a dictionary and a list or an array? That was going to be today's quiz, but I forgot to ask it.
An array is stored with a single variable name, and then in dictionaries it's stored as a key and a value.
Okay, so an array is just a collection of like elements. Dictionary is a collection of name-value pairs. Fair enough? Okay, so we looked at that last time, and for the assignment, we were doing the FizzBuzz thing, but we were storing it in a dictionary. All right? Okay, so we need to look at how do we create a dictionary, and we looked at that last time, right? But for ours, in here, we want to have a dictionary whose key is a number and whose value is a string. Fair enough? Key is a number, value is a string. So, let's see, where's my syntax for creating a dictionary?
I used a cookie.
The who?
I used a cookie in my dictionary. And a goat.
You used a cookie.
And a goat.
Oh, for your emojis?
And a crying cat.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and create our, let's go through this. So let's see, let's call this output, and we're going to say output is, syntax is square bracket, int colon string, like that. So that'll give us a blank empty dictionary. All right, so now were you supposed to go through all the numbers between 1 and 100? I didn't actually look at this assignment, so somebody's got to tell me what we're. All right, so we're going to say for var I is equal to, was it 1 or 0? 1. Keep going as long as I is less than or equal to 100, I plus plus. Each time through, we need to determine if it's evenly divisible by 3 and 5, or 3, or 5, or none of those, to determine what we actually store in the dictionary, right? All right, so we're going to have a series of questions, so our conditionals. So every new programming language that we look at is going to have a way of dealing with variables. Here's variables right here. A way of asking questions, which we're about to do, and then loops, which we just did right here. All right, so we're going to ask the question, so if the current value I, when divided by 3, has a remainder of 0, and the current value I, when divided by 5, has a remainder of 0. If both of those statements are true, that means it's evenly divisible by 3 and 5. Correct? So then what are we going to do? It's going to be what? That's the FizzBuzz one, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give ourselves a variable that we can use for, we'll just call this guy answer. And we're going to say answer. Let's see, you guys messed with optionals already, right? You can say answer is a string like that. I would probably, if I were writing this, just start off as the empty string, and I'm going to change it anyways. So I'm going to give myself a quick little variable called answer. It's going to be a string because I put a string in there. So Swift's type engine is going to notice that, oh, you shoved a string into this, therefore its type is now string permanently. And then what I'm going to do here is, if this is the case, and I'm going to say answer is equal to FizzBuzz like that. Or is it 2 words? 1 word, 2 words? 1 word. Nailed it. If you put 2 words, that's a 0.
You had 2 words on the assignment. Did you look?
No, I already said I didn't look. Did you listen?
You also said to sort it on the.
Do you know how boring class would be for me if I actually looked at what I was going to do before I came to class? I have to solve this in real time, otherwise I fall asleep up here. All right, so answer is FizzBuzz. If it's not evenly divisible by 3 and 5, we got to do another check. So we'll say else if I mod 3 is equal to 0. And if that's the case, then that one's the fizz. Else if I mod 3 is equal to I mod 5 is equal to 0, then we have our buzz. Else, if it's not evenly divisible by 3 and 5, and it's not evenly divisible by just 3, and it's not evenly divisible by just 5, then we want to get the string version of the number. Okay? Couple different ways we could do that. Did I actually show you how to do that in class? Or did you guys have to look that up? All right. Yeah, that was not very nice of me. So one thing you can do here is you can say there's a constructor for string that will just take an integer as a parameter. So that'll build the string version of I. For those of you including Concal, you could have just said empty string concatenated with I. That would have built the string I. Oh no! Did I just embarrass myself here? Oh, you that can't be right.
It doesn't
See the
work.
shorthand thing that you showed us. /
It's true. I did give it to you. Very good. Good thinking. All right, now I don't feel bad. You had everything you needed. That is sort of kind of a cop-out, but it does work. Remember we talked about concatenation last time? So I just created the empty string, and inside of it I inserted the value I. Whatever. All right, so at the end of this whole if-else structure, answer now holds the correct fizzy thingy, right? FizzBuzz, FizzBuzz, or the string version of whatever I is. So now I need to actually add this to my dictionary. So I'll say output at bucket I, because that's my key is my integer, is going to be equal to answer. Like that. Finally, we'll just do a println output, which is going to give us kind of a wonky looking order, because I think I mentioned last time dictionaries do not guarantee order. So it's not going to look pretty like 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is this.
But you don't want to print line it because you asked for everything on a single line.
Did I?
No,
Yes.
no.
Separate lines. Yeah, separate lines.
Okay, fine. So let's just prove it. So fine. Let's just look at this real quick. All right, so this looked pretty legit. 30 is FizzBuzz, 77, 68. All right, looks fairly legit. I said 1 per line. So for, let's say, actually this would make it go in order. I can make it go in order. So we'll look at a couple different things. So we'll say for key in output.keys. Man, I hate not putting parentheses there.
Let's see what you yell at you.
Can I not do a, are you serious? I can't do. Gosh, okay. So for key and output.keys, I'll do a println output at bucket key. Oh, and this is what you were talking about with all the optional stuff?
But it doesn't do it in order then.
Yeah, this is not in order. Yeah, I'm going to do the in order thing here in a second. All right. So now here's the, does that make sense? So that would have been acceptable if you, here, I'll just use this opportunity to show you something else here. I'm going to say as string. Okay, let me do that there. I did use an exclamation point. I think I put it there. All right, so that takes the optional away. Had I talked about the exclamation point related optionals before? All right, we're gonna talk about that today, because it's. Remember when I first introduced optionals, I mentioned something along the lines of it's great when you make some of those mistakes fairly often. The whole purpose of optionals is to allow us to define variables, and then now they're self-policing. They won't let us use them until we check to make sure there's something there. Well, once you get to the point where you don't really make that mistake very often, you tend to use a lot of exclamation points in Swift, basically saying, look, trust me, it's there. I'm not going to unwrap it. Are you sure I didn't talk about that? All right. Well, in any case, that's the lazy way out of doing that, but unimportant for this assignment. And I'll talk about it again here in a few minutes in case that zipped by. All right, so this would have just printed it in some sort of random order. On the flip side, since I know my keys are 1 through 100, I can use this exact same loop I had up here. And then just print out the key for I.
Come on. You have it.
Swift. Actually, not even Swift. It's the playground thing. So there's 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. And if you wanted to print out the pair, you would say I'll put the exclamation point in there for right now. Is there a way to get that to stay?
Yeah, hit that button. And then it goes over to the left. It's all the way over on the left side.
All the way on the left side.
Right under your println statement.
See, 100
Oh,
And then if you hit that,
that's not any better.
you can
Yeah, no,
scroll
I think their
through.
playground thing is like the most confusing.
It's jacked.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Now they're in order. All right. So something along those lines was the homework assignment. Does that fulfill it? All right. So questions about that. When would we use dictionaries over arrays? What was helpful about dictionaries? These guys apply themselves to any problems, common problems for us?
When the key is anything but an integer.
The key is anything.
Well, integer helps too, but essentially,
For instance, if the key was like a 290, you could then have, because can you have multiple values for a key or
Multiple. You mean multiple types for a key?
no? No, multiple key name pair. Okay, key value.
Okay. Can we have a multiple value store with a single key?
Yes.
Sort of.
Sort of.
You can't have like if you say our array here, if we say output at bucket 1 is equal to fizz, and then we say output at bucket 1 is equal to buzz, it'll overwrite the fizz with buzz. So we only get one entry. Okay, so dictionaries are unique per key.
Yeah,
But for that value, you can create your own object, and inside that object have a bunch of stuff. Or your value can be a dictionary
okay.
as well. So I mean, you could sort of kind of pull it off.
Alright. So I was gonna say you could have a dictionary that have who number is the key and then have first name, last name.
What you could do, you would have foo number as the key, and then a student record object as the value, which has first name, last name, that kind of stuff. All right, so let's go back to 390 here.
PXK. Oh,
I just snatched that security.
What'd I do?
oh, your security
Security
code for your.
code is open in the back.
Oh, I already entered that. It's probably a dead code now.
That's fine.
There's no good cards in that account. That account got banned.
Oh, from botting?
Yeah.
did you try to yell at them and get that back? Or get your money back at least or something?
Yeah, I tried to do something.
Anything happen?
No. Went to Better Business Bureau like twice. That was a lot of cards, and they called me a cheater.
But you were.
I'm surprised my account
It's
still
just
hasn't gotten banned.
What's that?
I'm surprised my WoW account still hasn't gotten banned.
Well, that one comes unbanned for me in like November or something.
Yeah, just in time for you to go buy the expansion.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that one's banned. All my accounts are banned. I don't have time to play video games. That's why I have to have robots play for me. Come on. That's what a computer scientist gamer would do, right? Have robots play games for them.
Except for we just don't get banned. So like,
That's because I really abuse it.
You really.
I really abuse it too. I have no idea how you get banned.
I had
nearly
my
as much as you
bot
do.
running for a week straight.
Huh.
I got banned.
Well, bad timing, I guess. Or maybe I'm already on their.
Already.
I'm already on their list.
After how much time he's had.
Can't even use like old credit card numbers because that's what's been blacklisted. All right.
Gotta get a prepaid credit card now, otherwise they'll know.
So in any case, we talked about collections, arrays, and dictionaries. Today we want to talk about functions and the anatomy of a function in Swift. So functions, this is, we're going to see these are like Java methods. That is reusable chunks, chunks of code that we write once and call multiple times. All right. Syntax for a function in Swift is the word func, followed by func name, open parenthesis, parameter list. So this is going to be name colon type. You could have 0 or more of those separated by commas. And then this is where it deviates a little bit from older languages, but this is maybe a place where I like the new syntax. they draw a little arrow. So you have the arrow dealy flippy thing here. It's actually two symbols, or don't look for the arrow key on the keyboard. And
There's an arrow key right here.
it's like, why won't this type? Is that some sort of freaky emoji? You could use either the right arrow key or the cheese burrito emoji. Do you see that
Only
thing
the
I
one
put on
with
Facebook
pictures.
that there's a cheese burrito emoji? Like with iOS 9, Apple released a whole bunch of like built-in emojis.
Oh dear God,
Oh,
my
just
Swift
for
programs are going to get
iOS
even
though, right?
awesome.
I guess.
Because like if you were to send that to me, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you. How are you going to be able to digest the cheese burrito emoji?
When does 9 launch again?
It's almost like going backwards. I mean, aren't emojis like hieroglyphics?
Like, exactly.
But how else can you flip somebody off of your text?
I guess that's true, but you know, so if
Good point.
yeah, so if I throw the cheese burrito thing, and all of a sudden he yells back at me and says, "I'm a vegetarian," I said, "Well, there's no meat in that." He says, "Well, how do you know?" It's like, I mean, it's a low res emoji, right?
When does
Then all of a sudden you turn me into human resources for trying to poison you, and it's
Now you need to have a cheese burrito and a cheese and beef burrito, so you have the
two separate.
Yeah.
Two separate. And some people like salsa.
The emoji.
Who doesn't like salt?
Who doesn't like salsa? Okay, shut up. I know. I know I started it. But I'm the fattest. All right. So, all right. So, anyways, in other programming languages, let me just deviate from this. If we were writing this in Java, just kind of get the Java equivalent, we have return type followed by, let's say, func name, just so we have the equivalent in Java. They're called methods. Are you serious?
What name?
I already pressed escape. Apple decided to still fix it. So then we have type name, something like that. Where in Swift, our return type is there. So in languages like C, C++, Java, C#, all those languages that fell off the C train, okay, they all have the return type preceding the function or the method or the, well, it wouldn't be a procedure, doesn't have returns, but, you know, preceding the name of the function, followed by the name of the function, followed by an open parenthesis, closing parenthesis with a comma delimited list of parameters, okay? In Swift, they use the keyword func to establish that it's a function. Then they have the function name. Then they have their comma delimited list of inputs. Except notice in Swift, it's the name of the variable followed by a colon followed by the type. So a little bit backwards, where in Java, it's type followed by the variable name. And then in Swift, they have an arrow followed by the return type here. Something I'm not going to get into yet, but Swift actually supports having multiple return types. We'll deal with that when we decide to be scared. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. But in any case, so Swift has its return type following an arrow, which kind of makes sense. Here's the function, and it boils down to this. So I think it kind of makes some sense. But in any case, that's the difference between Swift and Java in terms of defining functions. And then, of course, you have your opening and closing curly braces for both of these guys. Why do you think Swift starts a function off with the word func like that, where our C-based languages don't have like the word method or function or something like that out in front?
Somebody listened to Uptown Funk too many times?
Legitimately.
I'm being serious.
Since the return type is at the end, it somehow needs to know that it's a function.
Okay.
Whereas in Java and other languages, the return type is not at the beginning.
Okay. Definitely the second part, the second part of the first part of your answer is good. That somehow Swift needs to know this is a function. Okay. we see that the syntax is a little bit different, so maybe it's the return type. You know, at this point, we're kind of guesstimating on what the people who wrote the compiler's thought process was. But if we extrapolate this back to why we don't need semicolons in Swift, we need our lines starting off with something to let the interpreter know. I'm using the phrase interpreter because we're going to be talking about that in 470, to know what kind of animal we're starting to read in. I'm starting to read in a func, or I'm starting to read in a var, things like that. I'm starting to read in an if or a for. Kind of make sense? So it kind of gets the ball rolling. So the Swift language structure is such that we start off with keywords typically, which then means that we don't have to have dividing values at the end of the line like semicolons. Okay? But given that this is a function and functions don't have semicolons as part of the syntax in any of the languages, there probably is some truth to that return type thing where it specifically looks for this arrow as part of the syntax. All right. So in any case, let's write a couple of these. So we'll go back to our, well, let's write a simple one first. We'll go ahead and just get rid of this loop.
So is everything an object, or is there still static?
Who?
In Swift, is everything considered to be an object, or do you have static classes and such?
You have static classes. And we'll talk about that, but it's like Java from that perspective. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write a function. So I'm going to say func.
Can you write it on the top of the screen?
No, I'll go farther down the bottom. That's not what you want? All right, so let's start off with func add nums. Okay, so we're going to call this guy add nums, and this guy's going to take in an a, that's an int, and a b, that's an int, and it's going to return an int. All right, and we're going to return a plus b from this function add nums.
Where's the arrow sign on my keyboard?
It's right next to the cheese burrito emoji. All right, so again, functions are, these are untapped resources. So if I run, well, we see there's no output over here, right? So until I actually call upon this function, nothing is actually going to get, my program's not going to actually do anything. So I'll go ahead and I'll do a println add nums, passing it 5 and 4. And I see I get 9 out of there as my output. Okay?
So you don't have to return the same type as you enter?
You can return whatever type you want to return here. Yep. In fact, you don't even have to return any type. You can return a void if you don't want if your thing's not, if it's not going to return anything, you would put a void in there.
If it's void.
I'm not sure.
You don't.
You're positive?
Positive. I did it on my homework.
Okay.
And it works.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so these are your inputs. This is the type of your output. No harm, no foul. It's the thing. See, look, I put it right back, and now I need to press enter a couple times in order for Swifty to... Okay. So, in any case, we see that the answer is 9 here numerically, and then when it prints out, we're seeing the string 9 because that's what println does. Println builds a string and displays it to the screen. Okay. Similarly, if I call this again, and I say println add nums, passing it 7 and 8, now I get a 15. So the exact same ability that I wrote once can be called multiple times, passing it different inputs, getting different results. Make sense? Okay. So what I could have done for my homework is I could have created a function that takes in a number and spits out a string that converts that number to the fizzbuzz thingy-majiggy, right? So I could have said func, let's see, check number, and this guy will take in a num as an int and spit out a string, and we'll ask the question if num mod 3 is equal to 0, and num mod 5 is equal to 0, I'm going to return fizzbuzz. Else if num mod 3 is equal to 0, I'll return fizz. Else if num mod 5 is equal to 0, return buzz. Else return string of num. So now you have that in your toolbox.
Really, you have to have your spacing right. I know it's
Well, that's a playground thing. All right, so now I have check number, and so if I do a println on check number and I pass it a 3, it gives me a fizz. If I pass it a 5, it gives me a buzz. If I pass it a 2, it gives me a 2. If I pass it a 15, it gives me a fizz buzz. If I pass it a -1, it should just give me a -1.
What do you have to pass it in to give you a buzz?
A little bit of cash.
A little bit of cash. And
All right. So, that makes sense? All right. Now, you were saying something about wanting to try to do it recursively.
yes, it was not.
What part of this would have lent itself to recursion?
Just with how I would. Oh, let me bring it back up. If I still have it.
Well, I'm not asking you to tell me
I
about
was
your
just
code,
see-
just
I was
conceptually.
just trying to see if there was a way to, because I was bored.
Well, I mean, there's certainly a way you could have done it by kind of doing a countdown for
It was-
100 things.
Yeah, for me it was just practice for 470.
I see.
Because 470 makes my brain hurt.
All right, so that's our collection types. Control flow, we've looked at for loops. We saw our for in. I don't think we actually looked at this syntax, so if I let's update the code we had in here from before to support some of these. I'm gonna get rid of this, paste that back in. All right, so this is our code from our homework. So there is a syntax for a for loop. Remember when I first teach for loops, I mentioned that for loops are loops for counting type problems. So built into Swift is this idea of having a for loop that goes through all the values between something and something else. Okay? I think we looked at this a little bit last time. Did we determine that it doesn't get to 5?
Based off of that, it does.
Oh. What was the thing that it was, what was it, for in? There was one where it doesn't get there.
I thought it was that, but
5 is 5. Yeah, it gets to 5. So, well, we'll see it. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to update this code here. So instead of a traditional looking for loop like this, I'm going to say for I in 1 ... 100, just 2 dots, 3 dots, ... 100, do this stuff. So this is the equivalent loop that we had before. And here's our 100 times with all our fizzes and buzzes. All right, so another counting type loop. You never have to use it if you never want to. You can use just your traditional for loop and be done with it. Let's see. We talked about the difference between lets and vars, right? Lets are constants, vars are not constants. Okay, this is kind of an interesting, you can put an underscore in here if you don't actually need access to that value. So this just basically says go through this many times, but I don't need access to the value that was there. So you just put an underscore.
was that like an end to that?
Now, it's not an infinite loop, so let's say in this case power is 10. This will go through 1 to 10, but just not actually store it in a variable that you can use inside here. It's stupid. I think I probably mentioned last time that Swift does a whole bunch of stuff for us automatically that's just extra fluff to confuse us. There's no reason to write this. There's probably an efficiency issue under the hood, like it takes up, 16 bits less memory or something, but it's stupid. If you fail if you use an underscore, okay? It's realistically, I could make an argument to never use this one, although that I could see that being helpful. But why not just have the 1 for loop and just be done with it? So kind of a thing, I guess. Let's see. Okay, so that was more dictionary stuff. You can also iterate over a string this way. So let's look at strings a little bit. Strings actually in here. So let me dump this stuff. So we're going to say var s is equal to hello. Now what I can do is I can say for var I is equal to 0, I is less than s dot count. And then I can do a println s dot, actually I think it's just this. How do I get a value in a particular place in the string? Did you say he's dead?
Too much autoerotic to see.
Well, that's perfectly understandable. We got the 15-inch max for a reason.
Can you take the character of that string?
Oh my god, you can print out cat emojis? Or can you, if you put an emoji, can you put an emoji into a string?
Here, this is how I can append to a string, but I want to get an element out of the string.
Wait, you want to get a character out of the string?
Yeah.
Okay. Not pull it in.
Right, I just want to say, like, bucket 0, give me the H.
If you typecasted the string as a that character thing, then you can probably do it.
That started.
All right, so this is getting the indexes. Greeting.start index. Yeah, I put in. Oh, I bet you. No. I bet you it's this. Does it? And let me just try putting a 2 in there like that. So we can say for C in S, println C.
It says you could do string and then self at the value as character, and it should return it. And substring within range.
Well, isn't this the same thing I have written right now, or I have parentheses? Oh, that's the problem. I have parentheses. All right, so this gives me the individual characters this way. I can go through string that way, but I can't go through indexes. Hey. I really thought you accessed them like arrays.
You can, but you have to say string, as in like the actual, like the word string.
The word string, yeah.
Then it says self, and then the bracket. Just so you know.
Yeah, see, I think it's this. I can say var index is going to be a uint, I'm guessing 32. And then index is equal to 0. And then print out s at bucket index. Set 16. It says I is a int. Oh, I see what you're saying. So this string self at bucket 0 parenthesis. That was really dumb. Oh. All right, so that's a stupid, really stupid way of doing it. So I can take a string s, convert it to an array, then access bucket 0.
Wow,
Ha!
hey, it's stupid and it works.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, there's got to be another way of doing it than that. All right. Well, in any case, for our homework assignment for Monday, I'm going to put up a small program that's going to have you work with functions. So it won't be really much more difficult than what you've dealt with the FizzBuzz, but you'll deal with functions in that guy. Probably on Monday, we're going to limp into Xcode and start looking at some iOS stuff, very simple iOS stuff. So we'll all start applying our Swift knowledge to like making labels say something on an app, that kind of stuff. All right, so I'll put that up on Blackboard here in the next little bit, and then we'll go from there. Questions, comments, concerns, bribes? All right, I'll see everybody on Monday.